So, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We did see a fantastic game just then. We saw the likes of DeNova finally beating Spale, so keeping true to record as such, but we have an even bigger game now. We thought, why not end this one on a high and just show you exactly what some of these teams are made of at the moment. We did see the team they're facing off against losing out to Dignitas in their last play day, but certainly not a team you can take lightly. So it will be Virtus.PRO up against DeNova. Now these two, I wouldn't say they're the ones going back and forth all the time, but Virtus.PRO are one of those sides that they've shown that they are human now. That's the danger to them. So every team now thinks it's not impossible. But looking at these two lineups, who stands out to you here?
Well, we just saw DeNova to take down Spale, as you said, so that's we've already talked about their team. We know who's going to be making the plays. We saw Delgado play very well. Ostovo knows some questionable play on Ents in his IS3, so I'll be interested to see how he steps up his game going into this next match. But so we can look at Virtus.PRO a little bit. I mean, we got Breakneck, always a guy I have to mention, brilliant AMX/T69 player. I think one of their key playmakers. In fact, obviously we got Karitz, the new team captain of Virtus.PRO, taking over from Derp, who's obviously left the team. Also, rest in peace, another very good T50-2/T1 player, playing those tanks very well. He's always kind of pushing it. He's pushing his play. He's always wanting to improve himself as a player. Also, can't go out mentioning Kusok, ex-artillery player, now really playing those kind of more heavy tank roles. He's AMX 5100 player. He likes his AMX 1390. In fact, more the T69 oriented though. And last but not least, we've got Amelka. Fantastic, old school T69 player. Probably, he's one of the original guys. He was there back in, all the way back at the beginning, 2011, when we first had our first Go for WoTs. And he's improved. He improves every season, and keep an eye on him.
Okay, with that in mind, now who out of these two lineups do you think you're going to put your money on? I think there's a safe bet, obviously. Do I need to really ask you who you're putting your money on in this one, or are you having faith in DeNova now? They're warmed up and ready to rumble as such.
Yeah, but they were kind of a little bit shaky. I mean, 3-2 against Spale, so it wasn't an easy match for them by any stretch of the imagination. So. This is just going about, in terms of, as you said, who's more likely to win if it's a betting man's game. You'd say Virtus.PRO. I mean, they've won 3-0 twice in Season 1, so I would go for them. But having said that, it's a slippery slope. We've been saying about this. They got beaten by Dignitas, by Team Dignitas, and as a team that's full of new players, they could tank it all the way to the bottom. And it's a team like DeNova who does have the player ability, the player skill we just saw to take them down.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the firm favourite on paper here, to be fair. I've got a lot of guesses wrong recently, but I know a certain someone who can kind of give you guys an idea how you guys can get involved and obviously get your thoughts out there, because you've heard our predictions, but I want to know what you guys are obviously thinking in this little matchup here. So, Melly, how can people get involved? Hiya.
It's easy. First step, going on a Facebook page and liking it, of course. And I already put up a graphic where you can put your prediction in the comment section. So let me know, how do you think the match will end? And the best predictions, maybe the one that guesses is right in the end, will win a great prize, a bonus key. And we also have you also have the possibility to ask our experts questions via Twitter by going on a Twitter page and following it, and then using the hashtag WoT Pro League to mark your question as a WoT Pro League question. And I will ask Pansy and Laughter for the answers. And also the best 3 tweets, the tweets of the day, will get a bonus code as well. So.
Get tweeting.
Get tweeting.
Go to Twitter and get tweeting.
But we're going to call it Twitter from now on.
Yeah, we are. We've renamed it officially. But obviously that's how you guys can get involved, and you should do that, because obviously there's some awesome things out there just for a prediction. It's not hard, is it? He finds it hard to make predictions, especially when he's having to make the right prediction. But nevertheless, it's not that hard. But
Those
anyway,
insults are really coming out today.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
So you know where we stand on this sort of playing field. But let's have a look how these teams are doing so far. I think they're almost ready to get tank picking, so let's give them the go-ahead there to make sure they can get underway. We don't want to hold them up, because obviously DeNova are warmed up and ready now. They've been battling off against Spale. You know, they might have worked out a few kinks here and there, and they might be ready to now start challenging the big boys. Obviously, Virtus.PRO are number 2 in the league so far. They were ranked 1 until Dignitas dethroned them recently, so clearly they're going to be on a little bit of a vengeance battle to reclaim that kind of, well, the nature that everyone put beside them. They were that unbeaten team who had a clean slate into that one kind of mishap. But as you said, it can be a slippery slope. But let's see if they are ready, and let's give them a little go-ahead here, make sure they are willing to get underway. Now, looking at the maps here, what sort of map choices do you think we're going to see working in favour or really working against these guys?
Well, our first map is Ruinberg. We saw that DeNova took that one against Spale, actually. No, I think Spale won that one, actually. So it's going to be a hard one. I mean, I think this is one of Virtus.PRO's weaker maps. You know, we saw Team Dignitas beat them on the first match on Thursday. Very, very spectacular. You know, they pushed the tank through the middle. But having said that, you know, they're not going to do the same mistakes twice. You know, they're not going to.
You'd hope not.
They're not going to go for the bait like they did. So they're definitely going to have improved on the map, and that's going to be really hard. It's going to be the key factor for DeNova to take into account. But I think, honestly, this is very, very likely to go to Virtus.PRO's way.
Well, maps are kind of discussed now, so let's go have a little look as to what tanks they're actually going to be picking here. We do see the first picks coming out. Nothing to write home about yet. But what do you think we're going to see here? Very typical picks from these two? I don't think they're a team that really likes to throw anything out there that's kind of too crazy, but Virtus.PRO are the kind of, you know, the standard guys. They, you know, they don't throw out, you know, these random picks. They're very much a drilled-in team. They're very disciplined. They're very kind of worked through.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think it's a better thing when they have it, you know, standard, and we can really see what the teams can do. But so far, so good. T69's coming out from both teams. DeNova really going for that AMX 3090 straight away, so really wanting to perhaps do the middle spot. You know, they can use it fast. YR, I believe, was playing that last time. He's actually going for the T69 this time, so that's a little bit of a change from the last matchup. Kusok from Virtus.PRO picking the T1 and the MX 3090, in fact, and backed up by those two T69. So strong picks from Virtus.PRO straight away. DeNova actually liking that MX 5100. You know, they're picking one of them. And also Virtus.PRO picking it, so good move from them. We're seeing a really odd pick here, actually. We're seeing a KV5 coming out from DeNova, and that's kind of strange. I mean, because they didn't take it on Ruinberg when they played against Spale, you know, and even if they did do well and they won against Spale, it was still, it's like a you know, a risky pick, because if that tank can take a lot of damage, it can really work, and that's what it's for. Obviously, you're sitting there with 1,780 HP. It can take one more shot than you know, your T32 or something, and 2 shots more than your AMX 5100. Plus, it has all the armor it needs and the track and stuff. But they've obviously been watching replays. They've obviously been looking at Virtus.PRO's tactics on Ruinberg, and that's probably why they've taken the KV5.
Yeah, we saw it against the previous opponent. We went, wow, they've clearly been watching these strategies. That anti-strat on that last map, very clear. So we might be seeing DeNova, you know, really, you know, kicking things up a gear in this one, and, you know, watching back the VODs, watching back the demos, making sure they can challenge these top-tier teams and work their way back up the ladder here. You know, these guys, they're not down towards the bottom. They are sitting, you know, around that middle of the table, but I can't stress it enough. When it gets towards the later part of the season, you can't let it slip away from you. You say it's a slippery slope for, you know, obviously the Virtus.PRO guys, but it's just as slippery for DeNova if they don't, you know, start getting these wins in. So hopefully they can kind of claw this one into working, and maybe those, you know, anti-strats, watching those demos is going to pay off here. It's not going to be easy, though. Obviously, Virtus.PRO are the team to beat. You know, Dignitas, you may say it, you know, they are top of the lead, but Virtus.PRO have always kept that clean slate. They're the ones that have always been so hard to topple over. So we are going to be going live into Ruinberg. It's going to be an incredible way to start this one off. Let's see if Virtus.PRO can get back to that old action. So welcome into the first map. Here we will be seeing Virtus.PRO starting towards our north side of the map, whereas the south will be populated by DeNova. So we're going to have to see how this one plays out. This could, really kick things into motion. We saw a very interesting pick going up from DeNova. And let's see how that one's going to be played. What do we see so far here, Ollie?
Well, Winnie the Pooh actually going for the more village slash pre-village, I guess you could call it. These areas of houses here. It's an interesting tactic because you would have thought, with the city side, which Ruinberg has towards the left, you would put the KV5 in there because obviously, your heavy tanks are better in that kind of situation. Positive's gone quite far forwards, but DeNova not going for the standard tactic. They're not pushing really aggressively towards the middle. They're not going with the AMX 1390 trying to spot. Obviously now no teams really play artillery on Ruinberg. Perhaps it's actually a good move from DeNova.
Yeah, well, saying that, Just Cause has been just caught out there. Went a little bit too far forward in that 1390, receiving 2 shells, while landing those perfectly in that T69. He poked out a bit too much. Oh, he's gone back again. So aggressive here. Breakneck needs to come in and help him out. Rest in Peace is trying to do just that. Receives a shell himself. This is not good for Virtus.PRO right now. They look like they've been kind of spotted out and kind of worked out right now. They just need to get the frags back in for this, and they're doing just that. So finally, Kusok does get the frag onto Positive there, bringing it back all even after that Tier 1 did drop down.
Yeah, but Delgado's in trouble. He'll get taken down very fast. Positive also dropping. And look, now we see the Hive, I believe, is going to get taken down. Rest in Peace connecting the shell. Very good play from Virtus.PRO. Really coming back into it with Just Cause on so low HP. It was always going to be a hard game for them to do. But I think it's really about execution for DeNova. Sitting Delgado in the middle of the field is a big, big error. And now YR's in trouble.
Yeah, YR now surrounded by Amelka and Breakneck. The shells are coming in. It's Breakneck to claim that one onto YR. And well, Virtus.PRO somehow clawed this one back in. Winnie the Pooh still standing, still firing away at that KV5. The choice that we were questioning goes ramming into Breakneck, allowing Kusok and Amelka to flank around the side. Shell now connecting. This could be the end of Winnie the Pooh. His story, his happy little childhood memories are going to be ruined by the Virtus.PRO side as they come around. They're landing the shells left, right, and center, but the HP is so huge on this tank. It's taking all 3 of them to take him down. This is incredible play.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh tanking it like an absolute beast. But finally he will get taken down, leaving only Cripple left in that little T1. He's going to have to try and limp his way to the cap, try and put some pressure onto Virtus.PRO. But now it's looking very hard, almost impossible for DeNova to come back into the game. Surprisingly, because they had such a strong start. They saw Breakneck, or Rest in Peace, I believe it was, one of the MX 3090s, in fact. They caught him out early, they did a lot of damage, and that's why he was sitting on 17 HP. But DeNova kind of got ahead of themselves a little bit. They left Delgado in a T69 right in the middle of the field. They shouldn't have done that, to say it simply. He should have gone towards where YR was. He should have gone and supported his teammates in the city. He shouldn't have tried and gone for the sniping shots. That is basic tank play. Never get into a situation where you could possibly get caught out. That's a very important point.
Simple as that. And, well, Virtus.PRO clearly wanting to keep things in true trend to how these guys originally started off the season. They may have recently dropped to the ball as such against Dignitas, but right then they looked very strong. That was very much the Virtus.PRO we know and love, that strong clinical play. They got a little bit aggressive at the start. They got caught out there. As you said, I think it was Breakneck who got, I think, 2 shells connected onto him. And I thought, wow, this could be the undoing of them very early on, but somehow they always managed to turn those situations around into their favor.
Indeed, there was that push along the left side towards that road, which caught Delgado out, which caught even YR out there a bit. And then that KV5, I mean, yeah, it did take a lot of damage at the end, but then it was kind of useless at that point. I don't see why they took it, and Virtus.PRO, they countered it perfectly. They said, oh, we'll just leave the KV5. It's too slow. It's trying to get us behind us, but it's just not going to get there quick enough. And we'll focus on the tanks that actually mean they're going to do the damage. And that's why you saw Winnie the Pooh playing that KV5, sitting on full HP at the end, while the rest of his team had been obliterated. And that's very smart from Virtus.PRO, really prioritizing their tanks, really focus firing on the necessary target as opposed to the big juicy steak, I guess, in the middle of the team.
And that's what I love seeing, though. It's You know, these guys are only about 5 places apart, really, on the ladder at the moment. You know, they're not far apart. But Virtus.PRO, once you get to the very top of the league at the moment, it's incredible. These guys are so talented at just dealing with situations like that. Obviously, the next map will be Himmelsdorf, and I think they're just about ready to get towards, you know, picking those tanks. And I think, you know, Himmelsdorf is one of those maps where we very rarely see, you know, those kind of interesting tank picks as such. But it's always the strategies that it comes down to for me. And Virtus.PRO are always quite static, but always very well executed. I think, you know, we see a lot of teams who go for these kind of crazy strategies, but execute them very poorly. Whereas Virtus.PRO more, you know, stick to the basics, you know, just good tank play, and they always execute well. So I think this is going to be one of those maps where it's down to DeNova really to kind of make something happen here. But I think they are underway in the tank picking, so let's go to that screen and just talk us through what we're seeing so far.
We're seeing pretty standard stuff. It will be interesting to see if DeNova go for that 100, that 110 even, the Chinese tier 8 heavy tank. They didn't go for it last time on Himmelsdorf, although they did pick it on Ensk, which they actually end up losing just because of an error from their IS-3. But, you know, the previous match they won against Spale. I'm not sure if that's because, you know, they were the better team, really, or they did anything really, really well. It was just kind of Spale
throwing.
Exactly, Spale throwing. And, you know, so if they're going to prove anything on this map, they're going to have to do it now, because in the past, always a strong team on Himmelsdorf. I always say DeNova, one of the stronger teams, but playing against Virtus.PRO, who's also one of the stronger teams on Himmelsdorf, it's really, you know, it kind of cancels each other out, you know. You have 2 fantastic teams, but tank picking is continuing. Double T1, double AMX 5100 from both teams. Virtus.PRO going for another T1 AMX 5100, and same goes for DeNova. Kusok really opting for that T32, so the first surprise pick we have, and a T69, while DeNova going for something more standard, I guess, the IS-3 and the T69, and Kusok actually picking that second T32. Very unusual picks from him. That's really old school style, I guess you could say. The last pick from DeNova will be the IS-3, but going back to that T32, double AMX 5100, double T32, T69, double T1 for Virtus.PRO. Double AMX 5100, IS-3 times 2, T69, and 2 T1s for DeNova. But we can talk about the T32, but here we are in Himmelsdorf.
So, welcome to Himmelsdorf. It's one of those maps that can define a team, and both of these teams are so good at it. We will be seeing Virtus.PRO this time starting to that south side of the map, whereas the DeNova boys will be up in the north. But these two teams are now battling their way through as best they can here. First map did go to Virtus.PRO in some fashion, but nevertheless, tides can change. So, what are we seeing so far from these guys?
Well, DeNova just going for the middle area, actually. Delgado, Cripple, pushing towards the more banana area, while we're seeing the MX 5100 Positive do exactly what he did against Spale here, going towards the kind of rail yard place with Ron in the front, Winnie the Pooh there supporting him as well. Will be interesting to see if he actually does the same thing he did against Spale, obviously. That was pushing around the side, getting in the cap, and pushing some pressure from behind. But Virtus.PRO, they're pretty defensive at this point. They're using that T32 to its advantages.
Yeah, indeed. Facing off against that IS-3 down banana. We saw Delgado playing banana very nicely last game. And we're going to have to see if he can do it again. They're literally at that stalemate, just staring each other down. Try not to give away too much. Try not to allow too much of a peek there. And you see a couple of shells coming out. No connections, though, so a very tentative start from both sides. But looking over at Virtus.PRO, you can see that the vast amount of their side are up on that hill. First shell connecting and exchanging between Amelka and YR.
Indeed, but YR doesn't come off better. Amelka connecting his final shot, but no. Amelka bouncing that shot onto YR. So even Stevens, although Amelka has slightly more HP thanks to a slightly higher, lower damage roll than YR had. But we also see Koritz in that T1 coming to the right. He wants to try and keep the pressure onto YR, onto DeNova, spotting him out while Amelka tries to do the damage. But, you know, YR is a good player, one of the best players in the T69, and also the team captain of DeNova. So expect big things from him. Delgado's also taken a shot down at the bottom in the IS-3. I believe he took a 2, actually, from those T-32s.
Yeah, cuSoc is coming up big right now in that T-32. We questioned the choice at first. Maybe we were wrong to, but it seems as though Just Cause is edging forward a touch, as well as Rest in Peace, all up on that hill. YR having to back away a touch in that T-69. As you said, Karitz keeping eyes on that, keeping the pressure on the DeNova side to just keep them on their toes as such. But it's still a very tentative game. Beside Delgado being damaged up, it was a very even exchange between Amelka and the opposition. It was not, you could hardly call it.
Indeed.
But you just have to see how this one unfolds. It's more who's going to make the mistake here. Both teams are so good at this map. No one's going to give this one away, but we're going to find out exactly who's going to be the first to fall.
Yeah, Las Vegas under some pressure from WoT. He's probably reloading as he tried to do the damage to Ron. Ron got out of that one, but now Las Vegas on the offensive. He has the reload, but Las Vegas is going to be able to take down Winnie the Pooh in that T1. Winnie the Pooh not having the shells to do the last. Good play from Las Vegas, very clever play from Las Vegas.
Yep.
He had the bravery just to push around against that T1, deadly T1 gun. Ron's going to try and do it here. No, Ron's going to be careful. Yes, he will actually take him down. Good play from Ron there. So T1 for T1.
Yeah, but Rest in Peace has come all the way off that hill to make sure that T1 doesn't cause any more trouble there. So backing all the way down to the flag. Sally didn't get there in quick enough time to save Las Vegas, but still, he's getting back to it. So Breakneck and cuSoc now keeping eyes on that banana push. You can still see the shells are coming out. Delgado once again deflecting that one. 8-5-4 left on that IS-3, but that one will connect, and cuSoc still stays completely and utterly unharmed by the IS-3, merely steps away. Yeah,
that's a clever pick from Virtus.PRO. I mean, it's something you would expect from a team like that. They've really thought about it. I think sometimes the teams pick tanks not based on if they're the right tank to pick, but more because that's what other teams pick. And Virtus.PRO, they're not doing that. They're thinking clinically. They're thinking, what will actually work, as opposed to like a kind of popularity fad thing. So obviously, since 8.6, the accuracy changes, increasing accuracy by what, 40% on average. T32, I think it's 0.37 accuracy on that gun,
wow.
Which before wasn't too good. I mean, you're not going to hit a lot of shells, but now it's a lot better. So you can really make those shots. Before Delgado would have probably still had, over 1,000 HP. Now he's down to 580, and obviously, cuSoc has the turret armor. He doesn't have to worry about anything really. As the Rest in Peace will actually connect onto another T1. That will be another T1 gone for DeNova, and Breakneck doesn't have to worry too much about a response.
Yeah, finally the shells are connecting though. Delgado managing to chip away at cuSoc's HP there in that T32. And I love the way that, Virtus.PRO don't have to get overly aggressive to deal with what the DeNova side are doing. Just every time, just that passive response, constantly there. And I do see a couple of tanks making their way up onto that hill for the DeNova side, and that could be trouble because just about everyone from Virtus.PRO, bar and Melka, have actually rotated away. Yeah,
Melka's in trouble there. He's down to 229 in that T69. Some good play from YR, in fact, but YR really pushing forwards. He's doing a kind of a risky move at this point, because if there's an AMX 5100 there waiting, lying in wait to ambush him, it'll pretty much be game over since he will be on full HP. But Melka, he's retreating. He doesn't want to get caught out. He has been caught out on that hill before, I believe, by Team Dignitas last match day. Delgado taking another shot, taking down to 257 at the moment. Quite, ego play for him. It's again this thing which DeNova seems to have. They're trying to respond, but they should really just stay back and not take the damage. He's actually going to connect a brilliant shell onto cuSoc. cuSoc bouncing on that front turret of Delgado. cuSoc going down to 822 in that T32.
Yeah, just that slow slugging battle between these two. It's like watching the heavyweights battle it out there on Banana. And finally, cuSoc's had enough of that one. Going to try and readjust and bring the fight elsewhere at the moment. As well, it's probably not the best of ideas just to keep back and forth thing. We do see Rest in Peace being damaged up though. He's in trouble. He's going to have to back away from that hill. He went a little bit aggressive, maybe only expecting that one player to be up there, but certainly not anymore. So the Virtus.PRO side being pushed back even further. They have to play this from the baseline right now. They cannot challenge in this moment unless they kind of readjust and kind of accumulate their forces towards one area.
Indeed, but that was a clever play from Virtus.PRO. It's those little touches that make a team so great as they are. They put I think it was Rest in Peace. You know, he had a full HP.
Yep.
They put in a position that if anyone was going to get hit, he was going to hit, and not a Melka who was sitting on 229. But we have a push here.
Yeah, finally Breakneck edging down that banana area, going to face off against Cripple and Delgado. Delgado goes down in instants, and now Cripple left in a 1v2 in this situation. Just Cause makes his way around that corner. The i3 is being pounded by those T32s, and the AMX5100 just landing again, leaving him only 316. He got tracked there, so he was completely immobilized, and that just allowed the T32s to get a nice position, literally in between them, and Just Cause will claim that.
Yeah, but now we have the Positive and the T69 plus. I think it is the Hive sitting in that AMX5100, backing it up. It is 18 to 18, so two tier 8 tanks from both teams have gone down. But you know, the good thing about the YR, he will have the reload.
Wow.
Rest in Peace is going to be there. YR's going to actually miss his shot, but he will get response. He will have blood as the Hive manages to connect his shell into Rest in Peace. But, you know, it's these little details that make DeNova a slightly weaker team than Virtus.PRO. You know, why did they push YR so far forwards when they had a full health AMX5100 behind him?
Yeah, it's the execution again. We say it time and time again. Virtus.PRO will always execute it right. So now Just Cause and Breakneck on the hunt, on the prowl, pushing all the way back towards their own base because, well, there's still two alive. Positive. And I think you said it was the Hive. Oh, a nice shell connecting from Positive there. Holding the cross, lands another. Quickly replied by Breakneck, but caught him there in the tracks, has to repair that to get away. So that T30 is still up and running. Just Cause flanking around the back, going to try and find a shot to make. But these two teams are battling right down to the wire here. Yeah,
the Hive actually going back to where he wanted to go. He's not going to push forwards onto Just Cause, but Just Cause is going to get caught out in the middle. And now the shells are raining down, 782, 462. This will probably be the killing blow for Virtus.PRO if he can actually do the damage, but he's got to reverse now as Breakneck's going to play that T32 very well, connecting his shell onto the AMX5100.
Yeah, but 180 left, and there we go, one down. Now it's Just Cause up against two to find Positive and the Hive. He's got one. Gonna have to find one more. There's a minute to do it if he wants to take this one. Now, what is your guy left on? He's got far more HP, and he uses it perfectly. Positive, absolutely decimating Just Cause there. And Virtus.PRO not looking so good then. That looked like it was their map. It looked like they had it in the bag. But they just fell apart towards that later stage. What happened there?
I think that was what we saw from Virtus.PRO against Team Dignitas, you know? It was that kind of naive, perhaps a little short-sighted reactionary play, you know? Okay, they saw, oh, we got an AMX5100 and a T69 on the hill. Let's just push along the 8 road and take down the two IS3s. Delgado was obviously on low HP, so that was a good call in that respect because he would be a one-shot. But DeNova had it in the bag at that point because they had a plan for that, you know. They got the MX5100 behind, they took down a Melka, no problem at all. Then they shot the IS3, the T32 and the MX5100s, unloading all 6 shells, 1,800 damage, and that really brought them back in the game. And then it had that little error, a little bit of you know, poor judgment call. Of YR pushing forwards in that T69 along the banana road, even though he was on 250 HP around.
That was a curious choice from them. I think that was just a little bit of a schoolboy error coming out from the little bit of the kind of...
A bit of excited, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. They had the upper hand against Virtus.PRO, the team that have shown they're human, that they can bleed real blood. You know, obviously found out by Dignitas last match day. But, you know, obviously DeNova, they warmed up. Spale was a good, you know, starting opponent for them. They... clearly dealt with them and now have actually got a map against Virtus.PRO. Now, these guys obviously aren't unbeatable, you know, but to keep a clean slate for so long, even in the first season, they were one of those teams that just went all the way. And to already start, you know, working away at them, it's quite impressive. Now, DeNova, obviously you said that that last map, that was a strong map for them. Let's look at Ensk. Is this going to be a map where they can actually step up here? Is this one that they might be as strong as Virtus.PRO on? Or do you think it's going to come down to those reactive kind of situation plays? Yeah, well, Ensk is a really historical map for Virtus.PRO because it was the one they actually ended up losing Season 1 against Team Dignitas on. Wow.
So, you know, maybe not the strongest team. I would have thought they would have won Himmelsdorf as opposed to Ensk, although I do think DeNova is such a good team on that map. But, you know, they lost against Spale on Ensk, mostly not because of their tactics, but because of a lack of, you know, Ostap Benner pushed too far forwards. He got himself taken down, kind of ego play from him. So maybe not like a problem with the team, but more a problem with one player. So it's going to be a hard one to call. I think it's going to go 2-1 to Virtus.PRO, but the interesting thing here, I guess, is the fact that DeNova have picked the same maps. You know, these are the same 3 maps we saw them play against Spale in the previous matches. So at least they're warmed up. At least they know what they're doing, and they can kind of build up on their and fix the mistakes they had against the previous team.
And that's the biggest bonus they have. Literally that they can go, that didn't work out. We lost such a a unique position then because of one mistake.
Yeah.
But obviously we have to find out if they can work things out. If they go for a similar tank pick, it's going to be very interesting here. We're going to go into the tank picks as we speak. It will be Ensk though. So what do you think we're going to see here? We've seen quite normal picks so far. We haven't seen anything too crazy coming out. Do you think we will from these two, or do you think it's going to be almost the same as what we saw the first time that DeNova played this?
Yeah, I think it'll be the same. The 110 only the only odd pick, but since it's DeNova and they like that tank a lot, probably not that odd anymore. AMX50 100 times 2 from DeNova, plus an IS3, a 110, T69 and double T1 for them as well. Virtus.PRO going for the more standard lineup, the more trusted and tested lineup, double IS3, double AMX50 100, T69, backed up by those 2 T1s played by Las Vegas and Creets. Those 2 will play a big part in this map. I think they'll be able to put the pressure on, as the T1 is so famous for doing. In case anyone was always wondering, everyone always asks me, why do people play the T1? Why is that, a tank that's in the lineups? Well, if you've ever watched, watch the season final where Magus won against DeNova, in fact, what was called MYM back then, with the T1 capping on Wipeout. So such an important tank, never underestimate it.
Yeah, we're going to find out if they can keep that in mind as we are going to Ensk here. And let's see if Virtus.PRO can bring this back now. So, welcome to Ensk. We will be once again seeing Virtus.PRO starting towards the south side here, whereas the north will be populated by DeNova. Now, you said that we've already seen the likes of DeNova on this map. They made a little bit of schoolboy error against Spale, but maybe it's their time to adapt and learn from those previous mistakes. So, what are we seeing early on from these two that might define anything, or is this very normal from the start?
Winnie the Pooh spotting out Amelka straight away, so at least Yuri, YR will have a good idea of what Virtus.PRO is going to play, because that is their normal strategy. Positive, Delgado, Cripple, and obviously the MX50 100 played by the Hive, we believe it is, sitting in the background. They're kind of spread out, but they're all in range of each other. They can all, connect with each other.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me now is if Delgado can play this spot better. You said it before that he played, a little bit, ego there. He played a little bit overly aggressive, and it's going to show if Virtus.PRO, watch that last game when they got a second, just to see if they worked out that he got a little bit overzealous. He showed his hand a little early and got caught out there, and he literally did allow the Spale side to just take advantage. But no shells have connected yet. 2 spots have been made between these two. Couple of shots coming out here and there, but no connection. So just Cause keeping eyes just down that 4 line in case anyone tries to flank around Breakneck, and I believe it is Kusok. So no one making a big move yet. They're just kind of being a little bit more tentative, but I spoke too soon as Just Cause takes down Winnie the Pooh, the T1 who's trying to keep eyes on that 4 line in retort. So early advantage, a small advantage to Virtus.PRO.
Yeah, indeed, that T1 I was saying is so important, but it's a hard one to play. It could give you a massive advantage, could end up winning. Breakneck taking a big shell, 390 from, I believe that was the 110. It was indeed. Cripple's playing that tank very well, but Delgado's it's an interesting one because Ostap Bender isn't playing this map.
No.
He was the guy who made the mistake and lost them the game in the previous round. And they said, okay, you made that mistake, so you're off the team on this one. Exactly.
Yep.
And Delgado is going to fill those shoes, hopefully very well, because he's playing a little bit more cautiously. You can see the difference between the 2 players' styles. But at the moment, a T1 for some damage, that's the real trade here.
Yeah, we're going to see which one kind of really pays out in their favor at the moment. So beside that little kind of stalemate, we do see Las Vegas and Crete both in their T1s pushing straight up that 6 and 7 line. So they might be trying to apply a little bit of pressure here. So Virtus.PRO trying to tip the table into their favor and try and keep control of that time limit. Try and, keep the pressure onto DeNova, because you know how dangerous they can be. But, well, there we go. YR has caught a glimpse, and he's forced a reaction out in that T69. Crete and Las Vegas still pushing forward. You can see the shells are coming in. Crete is in trouble. He's going to lay down some fire. He's got some nice connection there. And who's that onto? It's onto Ron. And finally, Las Vegas replies.
Yeah, Ron's not going to be able to get taken out by Ron. Las Vegas is going to...
5 HP.
Yeah, 5 HP left on him. It's a very close call. I mean, you know, 1 T1 is enough, but if DeNova loses 2 T1s, it could be disastrous, especially as they're playing so offensively. And you know, this is kind of like a sub-play from Virtus.PRO even. You know, they're leaving their heavy tanks there, and they're putting some pressure onto DeNova with some T1s. And they're seeing what will happen. They're seeing if they can get any advantage for their heavy tanks. And if they can, it will be worth it, as they'd only lost 2 T1s for that.
Yeah, indeed. And Amelka enjoying the fact that those T1s pushed up. He did get a shell out and connected onto YR, trying to even it up after that T1 did get taken down there.
Yeah, indeed. YR's down to 1070. Las Vegas actually going to finally take down Ron.
Wow.
I believe that was a blind shot from him. No, it wasn't. He was spotted. You know, the bush not obviously paying out for him. So that's the 2 T1s down for DeNova. Big advantage. YR's going to take another shell to the face. That was kind of it looked like a lapse of concentration on his part. He's down to 810 now. That's a quite significant amount when you're talking about you know, T69 versus T69. Obviously, the T69 can only do about 1,000 HP of damage, and now YR's below that threshold. Amelka will be able to push onto him and take him down.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind the rest of Virtus.PRO are still alive and kicking. The early exchange did go down towards that 5 and 6 line, but the vast majority of their team are over towards 2 and 3. So Kusok, Breakneck, and Just Cause enjoying the fact that YR is under pressure, pushing up. Las Vegas trying to keep eyes on, and Melka now moving his way forward, trying to find another shot. Oh, somehow Las Vegas does manage to dodge the bullets there from that T69, but rest in peace, and Just Cause biting at the bit, trying to get towards YR, because he's such a pivotal member right now. Melka pushing forward, and this could be the absolute undoing of DeNova right now.
Yeah, Melka's pushing onto YR. It's going to be a 1 versus 1, T69 to T69. No, I correct myself. Rest in peace are going to join into the fun, and this surely will be the end of YR. He's trying to do as much damage as he can onto Amelka before he goes down, connecting another shell, taking him down to 664 before he finally gets finished off by Rest in Peace. Good play by YR, but even better by Virtus.PRO.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what DeNova can do in retort. They're pushing straight down the main road right now. Kusok laying in wait. Positive is going down, as is the Hive. These guys have played it perfectly, knowing that DeNova would have to try and get around to save that T69. And Breakneck enjoying the fact of it, as is Kusok, taking down Positive, leaving only 2 alive down here. And that 110 has to come around and help.
Yeah, Cripple's trying to do the damage, but there we go. Amelka's going to have the reload in that T69. Surely we'll take him down. Yes, they will. Amelka
wow.
finishing off. Very good Cripple in that 110, and now it's 2 versus 4, 2 versus 5 even. Virtus.PRO not losing a single tank. You can see on the scoreboard, 1 to 34. Amelka left on 30 to 28, but he doesn't have to worry. Delgado is on the retreat. Is going to be taking down 345 is his HP. Very easy job from Virtus.PRO. Very clinical play from them. And it will be 2 to 1 to those Russian Giants.
Stunning, stunning play. Now, Virtus.PRO clearly took last matchup as a wake-up call. Those guys went back to the drawing board. That was executed so perfectly. Taking down that T69 literally allowed them to already just think of, you know, where are these guys going to come from? They're going to try and back them up. They're going to try and work this out. They were laying in wait. Kusok was there. The rest were there. As soon as they made their move, DeNova were completely undone. That was incredible play. Very, very smart play from Virtus.PRO. I loved watching that.
Yeah, that's all about the initiative we always talk about, you know. Kind of DeNova just waiting there, you know, they're kind of sitting ducks, and all Virtus.PRO had to do was use 2 or 3 minutes of the game just to come up with a strategy to take down the most vulnerable tank, which is obviously that T69, because it was unsupported, it was out on a flank, which is pretty standard, but you know, that's all they had to do. They had to take initiative, move on, get the tactics sorted, while DeNova just sat there and waited for Virtus.PRO. And I think that was the problem for DeNova. They needed to do something. It doesn't matter what it was. They needed to do something. They need to push forwards, put some pressure on, maybe do something with the T1s instead of just losing them randomly throughout the map. So big problems for DeNova and Ents. They did lose against Speil as well, so perhaps a map they have to train a little bit more on.
Yeah, certainly. They literally looked like they're just waiting for the punches to roll in more than actually taking the initiative. As you perfectly said, and Virtus.PRO just took complete advantage, and that's just what they're so good at. They see a weakness, and they enjoy it.
Exploit
You know what I mean? That's exactly them down to a T. So the next map will be Progorevka. Now, who do you think this one suits more? We've seen city maps pretty much to this point. Who's going to really edge ahead? We've seen Virtus.PRO looking extremely strong on city maps. So this might be another chance for DeNova to try and get, you know, a little bit of an edge here, or do you think this is, you know, completely VP's map, Virtus.PRO, you know, dominant on here?
I'm not sure. I mean, they did so well against Spale, you know, that whole counter to push they did. So if they have got any sort of plan for Virtus.PRO, which they obviously do, I would imagine they're a team that does like to prepare a lot, especially, you know, very specific preparations for every team. So I think this could be DeNova's map. We could see them take it back up to 2-all. And Virtus.PRO, they seem to lack concentration a little bit on Prokhorovka. It's a map they did so well on Season 1, taking that 14 wins to 0 losses. But in DreamHack, they lost pretty much every game on Prokhorovka, against Dragonborns, against Team Dignitas. So it's going to be a hard one. It's going to be hard one for Virtus.PRO, but they're such a strong team.
Yeah, they are. For me, it comes down to what DeNova can bring out. You know, I mean, watching them against Spale earlier on, you know, they showed they prepared. Let's see if they're prepared for this. Obviously, the tank picks are going to be beginning as we speak, so let's have a little look at those. And what do you think we're going to see from these guys? I don't think there's going to be anything crazy coming out. I don't think we haven't seen anything too crazy yet, to be fair. This will be quite normal, really. But it's more the strategies that I'm interested in, you know, coming out from DeNova, who clearly had anti-stratted, you know, Spale there. Do you think they can actually do that to Virtus.PRO, or are they not as easy to anti-strat?
Definitely not as easy to anti-strat, because Virtus.PRO are one of those teams where, you know, they don't win just because of their strategies. They win even when they're on the back foot, because they have that real player skill. You know, all their players are so good. They've been playing the game for so long. They're so experienced that, you know, if they're in a situation where they're having to fight for their lives, they're having to fight for the game, they can really perform under pressure, and regardless of their situation. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're talking about teams like Virtus.PRO. But tank picking has started. First pick coming from them, taking a T1 and AMX 1390. And while we wait for DeNova to pick next, we can talk a little bit about, you know, how the kind of tank picking thing is kind of evolved throughout the seasons and even before the Pro League. You know, we've gone from a kind of situation where we had like pretty much so many different lineups. You know, we had all sorts of combinations of scouts and artillery, even tank destroyers coming in there occasionally. Now it's more, you know, your standard picks, as you say. You know, AMX 1390s, T69s, IS3s, AMX 5100s, but I think that is a better thing for competition. You know, you don't want to have just crazy random factors. You don't want to have, you know, all sorts of different combinations and stuff. I mean, it might be entertaining, but when it comes down to it, you want to see the strategies, as you said. We want to see the player skill, and not just, you know, not just perhaps more
cheese.
Yes, maybe a little bit subjective. We want to see more subjective things and kind of, you know, cheesy stuff. Yeah. But tank picking continuing, AMX 1390 T1 from DeNova, T69 T1 replied from Virtus.PRO. DeNova looking for those T69s, in fact, taking another one alongside that T1. Virtus.PRO picking the 2 firepower in their teams, the AMX 1390 and the T69 replied with the same from DeNova. So at the moment, both teams going for the Tier 8 American medium tank, the T69, and that Tier 8 light tank, French AMX 1390. Cripple down, Ostap up. So Ostap obviously wasn't in the previous game on Ensk, but now he's back in. He's back in the good books.
He had to work for that one after that first mistake, though, clearly.
Indeed. Well, Virtus.PRO picking their final pick will be a T69. Just waiting on DeNova. They do pick anything unusual. It will be the last pick because they don't want to obviously give away their hand in the first picks. Obviously, you know, that makes sense, I guess. We're expecting AMX 1390, perhaps the T69. It will be an AMX 1390 from DeNova. That will make it double AMX 1390, triple T69 from Virtus.PRO alongside those 2 T1s. And DeNova going for the triple AMX 13 double T69 and double T1. So again, that switcheroo with the AMX 1390 and the T69.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if this one pays off. Obviously, DeNova really did have something in store for that. Last time they played this, they had the anti-strat. They had worked out the tactics. They'd gone back to their little playbook and kind of gone through it all and worked out what would work best against Spale, but it's not as easy up against the champions of Virtus.PRO. These guys are not so easy to work out and, you know, counter. But we're going to have to see if they can do it. Maybe they've got something up their sleeve. Maybe they know exactly what they're coming up against and they can just figure it out on the fly if they have to. But it's all going to come down to the choices initially that they make. So I don't know how I'm going to call this one. I want to say DeNova. I want to see this go really down to the wire between these two. Yeah,
I hope for DeNova because I want to see the the fifth game, the fifth map. but it's going to be a real struggle. It's a real struggle with the Titans. Virtus.PRO, such a strong team on Prokhorovka, but they have to prove themselves, especially with those lineup changes.
That's the big thing. Everyone has to right now. Eyes are on these people to step up. So we are just about to get into Prokhorovka here. Maybe we'll see something interesting come out from DeNova. We're just going to have to find out between these two. You know, they could bring out another curveball there when they, you know, threw it up against Spale before and they didn't know quite how to handle it. And it was a complete undoing of them. But I don't know. Virtus.PRO seem the type to be able to kind of control that and step above and see if they can reclaim that first place and edge ever closer on Prokhorovka. And welcome back. Obviously, we are now into Prokhorovka with the Virtus.PRO side starting on the south side, whereas the north side populated by DeNova. Now, last time we saw something incredible coming out from DeNova on this very map, but Virtus.PRO cannot be taken so lightly. These guys are the veterans of this game who've, you know, been at the dizzying heights of first place for so long that, well, they recently lost it to Dignitas, but it's time to start clawing it back. What are we seeing so far here?
DeNova pushing up towards the middle area, not quite as heavily as they did in the previous game against Spale. Obviously, that AMX 1390 Ron and Rini the Poo in those two T1s are going towards the opposite side of the maps. Ron and the AMX 1390 are going towards the right side on the mini-map, the left side if you're looking towards the other team, while Winnie the Pooh in that T1 is going towards the more standard road area.
And Virtus.PRO already just stamping their dominance on this, taking Positive down, and Delgado, who are being completely roped in now. You can see Breakneck pushing forward, receiving a shell from Ostap. Surely they've got to get the damage done pretty quickly because they cannot underestimate DeNova, who are still doing damage. And there we have it. You saw Positive going down there. This is going to be so close right now.
Yeah, here comes Ostap from the side. He's trying to land the shells onto Kusok, not managing to, but there we go. DeNova's YR is going to actually respond on him. Karitz will go down that team, T1 team leader. Just scores on 3-5-3, so he's got to be very careful on that AMX 1390. Ostap, I think he has a couple of shells still left in that autoloader, so he will be able to defend himself if he has to. But, you know, Virtus.PRO, so aggressive at the beginning, so aggressive. It didn't quite go as smoothly as I think they hoped it would do. Yeah, you know, they did take down those two T69s, but, you know, Delgado took so much damage and lived for so long that it brought them back into the game.
Yeah, and now I just want to see what Virtus.PRO can do. They are on the back foot. It's very clear to see. This will be, you know, a defining moment for these guys. I think, and pull themselves back into here. That 1390 in the hands of Rest in Peace, pushing all the way down towards B6, really close to the opposition's flag there. You can see how close he is. And these guys are going hell for leather right now. They started out of the gates, you know, super aggressive. Even you said it, you know, I saw these two running at each other pretty much. And this is just, well, being clawed back slowly but surely. Las Vegas has found Winnie the Pooh. Shells are landing towards the hive. Rest in Peace is just keeping eyes on as best he can. Spots are coming out. You can see that Ostap is just keeping eyes on as well. Just Cause using that defilade. Oh, Amelka has been connected onto with the shell, so this is not going Virtus.PRO way right now.
Certainly not. Amelka's down to 366. Ostap is still pretty healthy. Just Cause trying to land a shell onto Ron, but no. YR will finally take down Amelka in that T69, so now it's 3 against 2. Rest in Peace, though, still sitting so healthy, so peachy. I correct myself, going down to 876. Just Cause is in big trouble now. He'll get blown away by YR. Good sniping from him in that MX 1390, but Ostap now trapped in the middle of the field.
Yeah, indeed. Feeling very much alone. The shells are now raining in. Rest in Peace has to back away here. He's got Ron not too far. Ostap takes down one. He's got Ron out of the way. So now 2 more in close range to find. His teammate did fall. So now that was Las Vegas. So now, as you said, 1v3. This is not the easiest task in the world. He's being hunted down by the opposition. You can see Ostap just on the horizon there, trying to find his moment to pounce. YR, nice and close range, 690. Rest in Peace, still at a disadvantage, even up against him. So this is going to be such a tall task for him. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was pretty much impossible impossible on an MX-1390, able to do 1,440 damage. So obviously that's not quite as much as all these guys do, and they're actually connecting the shell. YR will do it. He will finish off. Rest in peace. 2-all. Fantastic, fantastic play from DeNova. I mean, it was almost better than how they played against Spale, which is pretty incredible considering how well they did in that match.
That was amazing. It was over before it started. DeNova have just gone crazy at that map. They know what they're doing, you know, they thought, all right, let's take it easy, you know, for the first couple of games, not show our hand. And then later into the season, they're pulling out these crazy strats like going head on with Virtus.PRO.
Yep.
That's either brave or very stupid, but it paid off. So who the hell am I to judge? That's just, I love seeing that though, you know, having complete faith that you can execute it perfectly. And they haven't done it once against Spale, you know, as a little bit of a fluke. They've done it twice against, you know, pretty much bar Dignitas, the reigning champions of this entire game. You know, Virtus.PRO are the team to beat. They always have been. They've had that clean slate. Dignitas toppled them. And now, as you said, that slippery slope could be coming into effect.
Yeah, it was one of the things I was always wondering is in the back of my head, you know. Virtus.PRO is a team that is used to winning, you know. And if you're used to winning all the time and you start losing or even not even losing, just losing a couple of maps here and there, how would you take that as a team, you know? It's always hard, especially these guys have been in almost always winning team. I mean, Virtus.PRO is now made mostly of players from New Star, which was a pretty good team in the Russian scene. They didn't win all the time. They were kind of towards that, you know, top third of the ranking table. But you know, they've improved a lot, and that's why you're seeing them in Virtus.PRO now. But you know, we can go back to Prokhorovka a little because it was a really, you know, it was a clutch moment from Delgado, almost like him staying alive for maybe 5 to 6 seconds longer won them the game, because suddenly Virtus.PRO couldn't reverse because they desperately wanted to kill him on, I think it was on like 60 HP, which allowed Ostat Bender to come on the side with that AMX-1390 and YR as well, and really pump the shells into the side and the back of Virtus.PRO, which ended up winning the game because they had the HP advantage from there on out.
Well, you saw that map, and it was something to really remember there. Obviously, the DeNova guys will be keeping that in mind. Going into Abbey now, these guys have started the tank picking, so let's not wait around a second, because these guys certainly aren't. So a couple of picks here and there. And Abbey is a map overall. We've seen Virtus.PRO really struggling. I wouldn't say struggling, but struggling against DeNova on those open maps. But this is a bit of a mixture of both, isn't it? You get that kind of city element in a way towards the actual Abbey center. But there's so much going on elsewhere as well. Who's this one really going to favor?
It's a really tricky one. I mean, I never really had much of an opinion of DeNova on Virtus.PRO from the middle, so it's always hard to call. You know, DeNova are a team that plays quite well as individuals, but Virtus.PRO are even more in that respect. So, which is obviously very important on Abbey. But you know, Virtus.PRO are not the strongest team on this map for sure. I mean, they've lost. You know, lost against Team Dignitas, which was really hard for them, and it just went crazy from there on. I think that was the kind of losing point for them in DreamHack finals. Yeah,
and the mentality towards these two, Virtus.PRO, you know, they are drilled inside, but you can't, you know, start doubting yourselves, and especially on maps that you've lost on before, in, you know, such pivotal moments, it's going to be in the back of their mind. If they've already started losing a couple of games here and there, surely going to be playing towards this now. So what picks are we seeing so far?
We're seeing AMX-1390 T1 from both teams to start off with. Double T69 coming from DeNova, so opting for that hold-down tank, very wise choice for them on a map like Abbey, which is so hilly, it has so many high points. T69 T1 being picked by Virtus.PRO, DeNova responding with that T1 and AMX-1390 as well. Virtus.PRO picking T69 AMX-1390, whilst their last pick will be an AMX-5100, and DeNova is going for the AMX-1390 as their last pick. So for DeNova, the slightly faster, more versatile lineup. Virtus.PRO really going for that high damage lineup, you know, with the AMX-5100 able to do, you know, 1.8k damage with that 6-shell autoloader 300 average, 266 penetration. You know, good call from them, I think. I mean, I've never really been that impressed with a tank with the AMX-5100 on Abbey, but without artillery, it can really pay off for you.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out if they can bring that into play, obviously. We're just going to wait for the rest of them to just select what they're going for here. And who do you think is going to be the pivotal player in this one?
I think...
Or pivotal, you know, tank, I guess you would say.
I would say it would have to go to one of the AMX-1390s. I'm not sure which one or which team, You know, I'm looking towards Just Cause, and AMX 1390 does play Abby very well, and the tank in general very well. So keep an eye on him. But you've also got, you know, Ostap-Ben. He has to prove himself now. You know, he's made a couple of mistakes here and there. But here we go. We're on Abby. It's DeNova versus Virtus.PRO.
So, in the sweeping hills of Abbey, we do see on the north side the Virtus.PRO guys lining up, whereas on the south it will be DeNova. And now pressure on Virtus.PRO really to kick things back up into gear, because these guys really should be winning these games. So the good lucks, funds have been said. And let's see what we have in store on this one.
Yeah, DeNova going towards that middle area with YR in AMX 1390, with supported by that double T69 from Positive and Delgado. So they're going to be a really key part, a really key strike force, I guess you could call, for the DeNova side. Ostap-Ben and Ron heading towards the side, the trench area with Winnie the Pooh. And last but not least, obviously the Hive or Tournament WGL 184 in the AMX 1390 going towards the hilly area. So quite split up play from DeNova.
Yeah, indeed. But Virtus.PRO far more kind of drilled in as such, and more focused towards that 1 and 2 line. They're making their way, coming just those T1s back by their flag is almost, you know, the kind of fallback plan if all goes wrong. They have spotted Tournament WGL 184, if you want to call it that, or the Hive, as we prefer to say. But that's about it. So tunnel visioned all the way so far. So AMX 1390 to take down and unlock and unleash the Fury for the Virtus.PRO side.
Yeah, that's a good play from the MX 1390, trying to bait some shots out from Virtus.PRO. And we're seeing quite a confident DeNova right now. Delgado, you can see on your screens now, pushing forwards on that T69. Just Cause, I did say he'll be one of the key players for Virtus.PRO on this map, being spotted out. He's already down to 1097, taking 3 HP, but probably from being rammed by one of his teammates. Ostap-Ben going towards the, actually the cap of Virtus.PRO, so very aggressive from DeNova.
Yeah, DeNova just working out where Virtus.PRO are going to be. And, well, Ostap-Ben has found that T1 that was Karitz there, so already taking the advantage into DeNova's hands, forcing Virtus.PRO backing away from that further forward 1 and 2 line. They're going to have to go back, play a little bit defensive. Kusok is the first one to get back there to try and keep eyes over in that AMX 1390. He has caught a glimpse of Delgado, but the base is being captured.
Yeah, we're seeing a big cap move from DeNova, actually sitting a T1 and no, 2 T1s and an AMX 1390. Ostap-Ben will sit himself up behind, but now we're seeing a big push. We're seeing Positive trying to connect. He's trying to go up. He's trying to find Kusok in that AMX 1390, and we could see a very close game here.
Yeah, indeed. The flag is still being captured, bear in mind. Finally, a shell does connect. It's a Melka, though, to get that one down, but it's Breakneck to get the frag there, straight down into the Hive's face. So rest in peace now, trying to pick up the mantle as well, laying down those shells, as now here comes Positive and Delgado applying the pressure just about everywhere, splitting the Virtus.PRO forces and trying to get this one underway pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, Positive just receiving a shell, but rest in peace also taking one to the face. YR's going to come up from behind. You know, at the moment it's going to be hard for DeNova as Ostap-Ben has gone low. He's gone to 89 HP actually. Lucky for him, he didn't take a particularly high damage roll. He's got to get himself out of there. He's got to reset the fight, but it's 3 against 1 actually. Rest in peace playing it well in that AMX 5100. I said it could be a very good tank for them, but Virtus.PRO are kind of on the ledge here. They just got half of the higher ground. They can do the damage. YR going to 44 HP now. He's in trouble.
Yeah, indeed, and they're backing off Just Cause, having to get out of there as well, leaving the DeNova side exactly where Virtus.PRO started off in, and trying to come back round and spin the table, and they're doing just that now. Breakneck and Just Cause on the offensive. Positive has taken down Kusok, though, so DeNova still doing the work, but look at YR, 44 HP. Tiny amounts left, 1 connection, it's all it'll need, and it's all it didn't need, as Just Cause will find him. Breakneck into the action, Delgado on 49 HP, great shot comes in, though, somehow, as now Breakneck has to push forward.
Ostap-Ben is trying to snipe out some players from Virtus.PRO. Positive is on his own, 2 against 1. Lucky for him, he actually didn't do any damage, but finally, Rest in Peace will take down that pesky Ostap playing that AMX 1390. GG's coming out already from DeNova. I think it's a little bit premature. Positive still sitting pretty peachy, 552 HP and that T69, but 3 against 1 is going to be a tall order.
Yeah, I've seen some clutch moments, but this is really stretching it. That shell is not going to help the cause at all. That's Positive left on 3-7. Backing away in the T69, managing to track Amelka to buy him a little bit of time. But now here come Virtus.PRO, hungry for the kill, pushing further forward. Amelka looking to do the work. He's not actually connecting the shells right now, but here comes the rest of Virtus.PRO. Takes down one, takes enough away from him, and Positive will go down. GG's as said. And Virtus.PRO again, always able to spin those situations on its head almost instantly then.
Yeah.
I thought they were on the back foot. I thought this could be a close one. This could be DeNova once again, getting aggressive, controlling the pace. And then Virtus.PRO to go, no, not today. We want to win this one now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get back to the drawing board.
I think, DeNova did take the initiative there. But, Virtus.PRO were ready for it, 100%. They had all the tanks in the good position on top of the hill, ready to snipe out those 2 T1s. Those 2 T1s just got wiped off the face of the map pretty much instantly. And I think that was a problem for DeNova. They lost the T1s way too early. They thought they'll be able to put a little bit more pressure in the cap with those 2 T1s in the MX 1390 as well, played by Ostap. I think it was also a little bit of a composition error from DeNova. I think they should have taken, instead of those 3 T69s, they should have taken 3 AMX 1390s, because it took way too long for them to go through the middle and drive up the hill, whereas the AMX 1390 would have been able to do more damage, and it would have been able to pile on to Virtus.PRO, put the pressure onto them, and really focus down the tanks. So perhaps that will be a problem as well. Yeah,
there's always next time, though. Obviously, we are only kind of midway through the season at this moment, but you're still seeing the reigning champions of pretty much results, if you look at it on paper. Virtus.PRO being challenged by someone fairly far down the ladder, so everything can change. It is only midway through the season. We're seeing results like this that are just incredible. At the start, you'd never have believed it. But anyway, I think I was right on the guess there. I did stick with Virtus.PRO, but kind of did you as well.
Yeah.
We were both right, but it was like a very close game. We saw DeNova really stepping up. We saw in the first game looking very good, don't get me wrong. They pulled out some great strategies. And once again, that aggressive tank play coming out when they push straight across the map, willing to challenge Virtus.PRO, showing a lot of kind of improvement overall from them. That's a big thing for me that I'm really enjoying. But I know that someone else might know a few things about predictions and what's been going down out there in the big wide world of Twitch TV. And Melly, how we doing?
We're good. I predicted right.
You were right, actually.
Yes, I said that this is going to be a 3-2. And yeah, most of the people at home, well, you have the chance predicting the right outcome of this match on our Facebook page. WoT Pro League, go and like it. It's cool. And yeah, many people predicted the 3-1 outcome.
Wow.
It's because I said it.
Virtus.PRO. Because you said, of course.
All right.
Okay. Well, they were wrong. No, we had actually 2 people or 3 guessing it right. Eric and Ludwig, you're both getting a bonus code for predicting the right outcome of the match. Congratulations. And yeah, Twitter questions. We have also.
There's questions.
You at home had also the chance getting the answers of our 2 experts.
Come on, bring it on. What have we got?
Bring us the questions.
Bring us the questions.
Okay. Why does the IS-4 have more armor on the side than rear?
Sure. Well, I guess if you think about it, why would a tank have armor on its rear? Tanks are all about that, penetrating power. They have a lot of armor on the front because, you're never going to reverse back into it, against your enemy. Obviously, I mean, yeah, we do see the IS-3 being played from, reverse because, it can use its side armor and stuff. But the IS-4 is one of those strange tanks where the side armor pretty much defines the tank. I mean, back when it was tier 9, it was even more overpowered. Now it's not so overpowered. It's still it's pretty well balanced. But yeah, it's that thing where the front and the side of the tank are more likely to get hit than obviously the rear of the tank. So it's a common theme through every tank, I think, apart from the mouse, which is armored everywhere. It's insane. Any more?
Yeah. Why every team prefer 1 or even more T69?
Sure. I think it's one of those things where when it was released, I think it was an 8.4. Every team was like, "Wow, this is one of those tanks which everyone's going to have to use." It's reasonably fast. It's along the lines of your AMX 5100. It's got that 4-shell autoloader, which is so powerful. I mean, you can pump out 1,000 damage within a few seconds, and then obviously you have the 300 penetration with that heat ammo. Plus, gun depression's very good, gun elevation's very good, so it doesn't have to worry about getting into like strange and hard situations where it can't shoot tanks above it, not because of the player, but more because of the restrictions on tanks. So I think it's one of those tanks which is just good all round, so it fits into World Tanks Esports perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, last question of the evening. What do you think was the funniest game so far in the season?
Funniest game?
I think it has to be one of the ones we watched at the beginning when Runes jumped off the cliff. That was pretty fun.
It's got to be the cliff dive from Runes. That was one of the first ones I've ever seen. I was like trying to be really serious about this, like, oh, this might be tactical, you know what I mean? And then I was like, he's just rolled off a cliff.
I tried to find the replay of that, but
we need to find it.
He sneakily didn't include it in his folder because it was a draw game. So I was like, damn it, man! I wanted to rip you for that one.
Clever man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely was a highlight for me.
Good. That's all.
That's it?
Is that all?
That's all.
Ah, no more questions. Ouch. But there were some awesome games today, to be fair. We have been treated to seeing Virtus.PRO once again push to their limits.
Yeah.
And I love seeing it. I think they're a fantastic team, but watching a team of such prestige being pushed by the likes of DeNova is always enjoyable. And seeing how much DeNova are just improving has been astounding. These guys have clearly been back to the drawing board, work things out, watch back demos, and clearly on a couple of maps have come out with some very interesting plays. Let alone how Spale are doing as well. They're such a hit and miss team, though.
Indeed.
It's very hard to read into their performances. It might be they're having a bad day, they might be having a bad week. You never know with these guys. They could come back the next week and challenge one of the top 3 seeds in this. You never know. That's the thing with them. It's the same with like the Kazna crew guys, but they just seem to be actually getting the results in. But we've had some brilliant games today. But obviously there are more games coming up. It isn't today, though. It will be on the next match day, which will be, just going to get this one right, it will be on the 18th of the 7th. And it won't be, your DeNova day. It will be the Huns underdogs will be treated to. And these guys, they're looking pretty good. And they're going to be in a bit of a predicament. They're not at the top of the tier, you know what I mean? They're not at the table. Currently, they're outside of that top 6. So they've got to start fighting for these games. This is where the season starts heating up. These guys got to start getting those results in. And every team's improving. It's only getting harder for them now. Yeah,
it's not going to be an easy game for them at all. They did just get picked up by WD Gaming, Western Digital. So, they're going professional. They're making that next step, which hopefully, it could go to one of 2 ways. We saw, DeNova, when they went professional with Meteor Makers, there seemed to be a significant drop in their results. They weren't quite doing as well as they were. But, if WD Gaming, or known as Huns Underdogs at the moment, if they can, make the next step, with grace, if they can really perform now they've got a sponsor, I think we're going to see such a good team, and I'm hoping to see them at Gamescom, obviously, if they qualify in that top 6 spots.
It's not going to be easy. They've got Kazna Crew and Mouse Sports. You know what I mean? Mouse Sports are just 1 step behind them. They're 7th, I think. Oh, let me get right. No, they're actually 8th. They're the 1 step behind Huns on the current leaderboard. This is going to be a really close game. And then, obviously, Kazna Crew are top 3. They're in that 3rd place. Make sure you check it out, by the way. It's on the WoT Pro League website.com. Check it out. Have a little look how it's going so far over there, because you can see how close this one is getting. I kid you not. When it comes down to that top 6 to go through, the games are going to be amazing. If they're already coming down to the wire like this, God only knows what happens. You know what I mean? Like, I dare to think what Kaz and the crew are going to do to the Huns underdogs. You know what I mean? They're such a team that can pull off these great kind of games, but they also can struggle every now and then in games they shouldn't do. They always seem to be able to beat, the top tier teams, but when they come against someone who's not necessarily revered as, a top 3 finisher, they kind of struggle a little bit. So, yeah, there's going to be some incredible games. Yeah, exactly that. That's the biggest point is, they've got to be able to, challenge the top tier like the lower tier. And I think Huns are going to kind of feel that pressure, or they might feel that slight relief up against Kazna Crew. But Mouse Sports, they've just as much to play for as the Huns underdogs. That's the thing. They're both going to start getting hungry, start looking for those better results, get themselves in a more comfortable position on that kind of ladder at the moment, or that, you know, scoreboard or the rankings as such. It's not going to be easy, though. Every game is going to be incredibly hard fought. Obviously, we've had some brilliant games today. I can only imagine what we're going to be having coming up next week. Obviously, you can just, you know, go on there and already check out how Kaznikar are doing. These guys are already top 3. They've placed, I think, outside of the top 6 last time, pretty much, or they were just within that top 6. And now look at them go. So we're going to be treated to them next week. So guys, make sure you check out the Facebook, check out the Twitter. You know how to do that by now. I'm sure we can chuck up a graphic view at some point showing you exactly how you can get involved. And make sure you just check out absolutely everything going on in the WoT Pro League Season 2, because so far it's been astounding. Every game has been memorable. We've seen some ridiculous moment, hi Runes, and with some brilliant games, you know, the likes of Kaznikar really stepping up. We've already seen Virtus.PRO toppling to Dignitas. So guys, make sure you check out those replays. They are available on the www.wotproleague.com/Season 2 page. They'll be up there. Make sure you tune in. We'll be back next week. I believe I already said it. It is on the 18th for the match day 15 and 16. And guys, I'm already excited for it. Hopefully you are. We'll be back then. We'll see you then.